Okay, hello. This is a walkthrough for this week's community case, Arimethica 2026, which suggests there was a previous version, but that's probably before my time. So yeah, let's get straight into it. I'll talk through my approach as I go, particularly level 3 and 4, which I looking at the group chat. There was a lot of back and forth on that. So yeah, right, let's get started. I've done all my usual setup work so that this is nice and efficient. So level 1, for each count, how many times does the given digit appear in the decimal writing of all the natural numbers? So we have a sequence of whatever is in C1, in this case 200. We're then going to concatenate that into a single text string, and then we're just going to use counter currencies. Can't type all of a sudden. Counter currencies of whatever's in B1 based on what's now in F1. We get our count. Level 2, we want to have a sequence of whatever is in B1, which is 500, and then we're going to check whether the mod of that based on this divider, whether it equals 0, and this time we're going to do the mod of this based on that divisor, whether it doesn't equal 0, and we want those where it's true and true, so we're going to by row. Actually, no, we're just going to say and. I'm doing this slightly different to how I did it before, but so I'm not sure this is actually going to work, but we'll see. No, and that doesn't like kind of array, so I'm just going to say that times that should give me ones and zeros. Yep. And then don't know why I put those in brackets. Maybe I didn't need to. So I'm going to filter the sequence based on that being true. And I'm going to return the number of rows in that, which gives us all a level 2, level 3. So level 3 on the real thing, I looked at this, assumed it was a regex problem. Didn't basically spend a few minutes looking at it, then realized I wasn't going to get it, so then moved on to the other levels, and then came back to it afterwards. Since coming to it afterwards, I have found a solution, but it's very involved, and I'm going to show you how it worked, but I'm also then going to mention another solution which has been hinted at by other users, which I think would be, well, it definitely is much better. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out the length of my string. So this is going to be able to tell me the possible numbers we can choose from. So we are going to go from 10 to the power of this minus 1, because we're going to go from 100, which is the shortest 3-digit number, and then we're going to go 10 to the power of that, but then we're going to minus 1 from that, so we can have any number between 190 999. I've got a from to or to from sequence to from to sequence lambda. So if I take those, I get all my numbers. It's going the wrong way around, but doesn't matter. And then what I did was I took my text characters of whatever's in B1. Oh, doesn't like that because I'm trying to type too quickly. Then we need to know which ones are numbers. So is number this, but we times it by 1 to actually try and treat it as a number. Then I want to know the kind of group count, so how many times has the item appeared before, so whether it's so we know whether it's the first time or not the first time. I tried this before I created a scan, and then I've turned it into a lambda, so group running count based on this, which gives me 1 1 2. Then I need to know the unique actually let's do this one separate time. I need to filter. I need to get all the letters, because these are the ones we're going to be looking at. So I'm going to filter this where it's not a letter, or not a number rather, and then I'm going to wrap that inside a unique. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to question 42 so we can better see what happens when we have 2. Then we need to basically turn these into groups, so we'll create a sequence of the number of rows of that. And what I'm going to do, and this is where regex becomes really powerful, is I'm going to put that after a backward slash, which is going to create my kind of reference groups in regex. And here comes the really difficult part, so creating the regex expression. So what we're going to say is if we have a number, then what we want to do is we want to return the number, but I'm going to put it inside a kind of square brackets, because when I didn't do this, there was one that didn't work, and I think it was something to do with like consecutive digits, possibly, but I haven't looked at it too closely. So if it's a number, then we just want the number. If it's not a number, but it's a letter and it's the first one, so if this running count equals 1, then what we want to do is return a wildcard inside brackets, so that becomes a catch group. And then otherwise it means it's a letter but appearing for the second time. So what we're going to do is we're going to X look up the letter, the original letter, in our letters kind of unique letters and return the capture group. And if I close that, I should get an expression. And then if I concatenate that array, we get a full-on expression. And then I'm going to say regex test regex test my sequence of numbers based on that expression. And we get trues and falses. So we're then going to filter the sequence based on where that's true. I'm going to go back to the example so we have something more manageable. And we see only a few examples. Then what I'm going to do is test which of these are odd. So I'm going to go by row, this is odd. And I get trues and falses. And then I'm going to wrap that inside. Oop, I've accidentally gone to capture the screen. I'm going to wrap that inside filter. So we want to filter this same array based on where it's odd. And then I'm going to wrap that inside a sum. And then what I'm going to do is copy the actual formula, paste it into the cell next to it, and then say is even. And then my thing is I'm going to X lookup what's in C1 on this range and return this range, and that gives me the answers now. And for now, I'm not going to go through the other solution. I'll come back to that at the end because, like I said, I think other players will do a better version of explaining it, but I thought I'd just share it here. Okay, so level 3, that's great. Level 4, we can then just copy most of our working from level 3 here, and the only thing that's different is we are going to be doing different, and I've just copied that as values only, so it didn't change anything. So I'm going to copy that as formulas, and this time we're just going to filter our list based on whether it is a divisor of the divisor we're going to. So we're going to filter that where mod of this based on this divisor equals 0, and we get those, and then we're just going to sum those up. And our answers go green. Okay, level 5. So we want to get a sequence from to this number to this number. I actually need to fix my from to sequence because it's the wrong way around. I've got an is palindrome lambda, so I'm just going to apply that. Then I'm going to filter my from to sequence based on whether it is a palindrome, and then I'm going to filter. Actually, I've done this as separate steps, but could do all in one. So we're going to say mod of that by this divisor equals 0, and then filter this list based on that condition, and then we're counting the number of rows in that list, which gives us 8. Level 6, we're going to take the text characters of B1, we're going to times them by 1 so they're numbers. Oops, not by 81, by 1. Oh, doesn't like that. It's also inserted a multiplication there. Then I'm going to sort this array, puts it in ascending order. I'm then going to concatenate this, but in order to then not deal with the issue where we have leading zeros or them disappearing, we're going to force that into a 4-digit number. Then we're going to just say the reverse of this and copy that formula over. In fact, I probably could just done the reverse of my text, but that's fine. I'm then going to minus the descending from the ascending, and by minusing it, converts it back to numbers, and that's a one-step version of this process, but we need to be able to iterate. So I'm just going to copy over my previous workings here. So on the live case, I actually built this as a let. This is basically the let of what I've literally just done. So that's one iteration. So what I then had to do was copy that to form a lambda. So we say equals lambda. We put our x outside the let statement, remove it from inside the let. We can just check it's still working by pointing at the original. We get the same thing. And now we're going to copy that and put it into a scan. So we're going to say scan over this initial value. We'll go over sequence of 10. And then our lambda is this. The only thing we need to change in the lambda is we need to technically put in a variable that is the kind of second, the iterator. So I just put an underscore because it's not actually doing anything. Why doesn't it like that? Because I've still got an equal sign there. And then we get it and we see by the third time we reach 6174, so we're just going to X match on 6174 as text because I've converted these to text by forcing it, and then we get 3, and that is correct for all the others. Now this time we're now going to text split this based on the semicolon, and then we're going to do the same as before. We're going to build a single version that does this check, and then we'll scale it up. So we're going to say our multipliers are actually just a symbol of every other digit being multiplied by 2. And then we're going to say text characters of the first one. We're then going to try and multiply them where we need to. So we'll say that times the multiplier. Do we need to change this to times 1? Doesn't like that. What have I done wrong? Oh, it's not a spelled array. There we go. And then I'm actually going to convert that to hard-coded values because it won't change. And our adjustment basically says if this is greater than 9, then take it a -9. Otherwise, just, it should be h4 hash minus 9. Otherwise, it's just that. And I know you could probably do that more efficiently with just a condition on that last bit. So -9 or -0. And then we're going to sum this. And then we're going to check whether this is a multiple of 10. And we get false for that first one. Again, I'm just going to grab my let from my previous working, so we're not slowing ourselves down. So if I just grab that, this is actually closer to what I did in the real thing, where I built this as a let initially rather than doing it step by step, but I'm just showing you step by step so you can see how it works. So if I point that let to the first one, it works. And if I again were to go down, we should get 3 trues and 3 falses, which is good. We're now just going to copy this, form it into a lambda. So lambda x, get rid of the x inside the let statement, close it off. We can point to one of these just to check. And then for our map, we're going to copy that lambda statement. Don't know what I did there, accidentally mistyped. We'll copy that, and then this time we will go map over all of these values using this lambda. Just close that off. We get our trues and falses, and then we just want to sum where those are true, and we get the count of the rows. Okay, how are we doing? Just coming to 12 minutes. Bonus 1 to 4. So let's get rid of the working from when I was practicing and exploring. So bonus 1. Consider the decimal writing of all natural numbers, which digit appears the most. So we're going to do a sequence of 1000. We're going to concatenate that sequence, and then we're going to wrap that inside a text characters. So we're actually going to split it all out, and then I'm going to use my most least lambda, which is just a group by used on the same thing twice, and we see 1 at the top, which is 301. So 1 is the most irregular digit. Number 2, how many numbers between 1 and 1,000 are divisible by neither 2, 3, or 5? So we'll do another sequence of 1,000, and we will say mod of this, mod of f3 hash divided by these 3 doesn't equal 0. So when is it false? And then we're going to go by row over this array, and we're going to say and we're just going to sum minus those to find out how many there were, and we get 266, which from memory I think is good. Bonus 3, how many palindromic numbers exist between 1 and 10,000? So a sequence of 10,000, and then I can just use my is palindrome on that, and then I can just sum minus of that, and we get 198. 198. And then what is the maximum number of Capricar steps? I've probably just butchered that pronunciation. So if you look at level 6, the actual answers, there's nothing higher than a 7. That is in fact good enough to give us the answer. I did in the live case actually do a sequence of all what were numbers from 1,000 to 9,999 and run my lambda or my let over all of them, and I still only got 7. So it is the true answer, but one's a very quick way and one's a slightly longer way of doing it. Which brings us to bonus 5. What is the check digit that makes payload 7992 such and such a valid Lun code? So I've grabbed these workings and I've put them over here, just looking at that initial number, and when we try that number it's only 10 digits, which is why we've got an error here, because there's a digit missing. So what I did was I created a little formula here, which is basically saying for each of these positions, so in this position 0, so I insert 0 in front of this, and is it returning true or false? Because I thought it wasn't clear where we had to insert the digit, and also so I thought I need to try all of the 11 possible locations, because there's one between each of the 10 digits or the last digit, and then each of these 10 possible digits we could insert. And when I did that, this is the pattern I got. So there were some trues and falses, and then if you look at the last position, it says insert a 3, and so when you put that in the case, you see the answer is 3. Cheekily, actually, in the real case, I didn't solve this in time, so I just tried all the numbers and I got the answer as 3. But now it makes sense to me that what this was really saying is what number, if we add to this, if I add a 1, it's still false. If I add a 2, it's false. But if I add a 3, it's true. So that's what that question was really saying. So if it had perhaps said which digit needs to be added to this payload for it to be valid, then I think I would have got it in time already. Well, I did get it in time by guessing, but I would have then understood why I had got it right. So yes, so that's let's just put that in here. We can see we've got all the answers. So that's just over 15 minutes for a walkthrough, which for me is very, very quick. I said I'd go back to level 3 and just share a nugget of where I think this will be going, but I'll let others do a better job of explaining it. Basically, there was an option to use find and replace, use substitution instead. So if I say substitute in the pattern, take the A and replace it with a sequence of 10 digits starting at 0, we then see all the possible ones, which for this one would have been enough, as long as we then filtered out those that were, if we then times that by 1 and then filtered out those which had a length less than 3. And then the way to scale that up for another one is to then say, right, well, let's substitute, in this case, this range. Let's try B, and again do a sequence of 10, but this time do it spilling out to the right so we have a proper spill. And this will disappear. If I put it over here, we might see actual values. And we've now got, on this case, because there is no B, it's not really changing anything. Whereas if I change this to, let's go ABBA, I didn't like that. Not sure why that didn't like that. Let's just undo. Let's point to ABBA and see if I can make it point to that. Does it work? Doesn't like that. Not sure why. Okay, but you can see the basic idea is you start to multiply out. So yeah, a substitution approach could have made this way easier than I made it. But anyway, I'm glad I learned how to do this thing with capture groups, because I'm sure that could come up somewhere else. And I'll be interested to see other people who've managed to work through a solution which was much quicker than what I eventually came up with. In terms of how I did on the live case, as I said, I did level 1, 2, got to level 3. Probably stared at it for a minute, was like, I just don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I could probably do it on a case by case, like looking at each pattern. I think I would have known how to make something like that, but obviously you needed to be able to adjust it for every single one. So level 4 couldn't be done then because of that. Did 5, 6, 7, did some of the bonuses, then went and tried to look back at level 3 towards the end and ran out of time. But pretty happy with my performance. I think when I first looked, there was 99 people had done it and I was at 18, so definitely, top 20% for me is very, very good. I'm very, very happy with that, so can't complain. But yeah, hope you found that helpful. Like I said, looking out for the solutions that others will offer on these level 3 problems, which didn't involve complex regex work. But there we go. Thanks for watching.